Good evening to you and congratulations. We have not spoken since you became a big man in the House of Parliament.
I'm not sure about the big man part, but I'm still in the House of Parliament.
Very well. Today we are told you wanted to stage a walkout. That would have been very embarrassing for you to be commanding a so-called super majority and still run away from the chamber. That would have been embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Well, you need to understand the rules of the House to understand certain actions. The Speaker is the one who has authority in the House to admit statements. The Speaker decides that he's admitting a statement. There's nothing you can do about it unless you want to be rowdy and you want to turn chairs upside down and disconnect microphones. So if we said that if the Speaker insisted and allowed the statement to be made, we will not be part of it. We'll step out. And so that if the courts are holding him accountable for his conduct, we will not be part of it. That was a simple message. It wasn't because we're afraid of anybody. It is because under our rules, it is the Speaker who admits statements. And once he decides that the statement should be read, it has to be read.
Okay. Now, let's step back a bit and talk about the reason for the disagreement you had today. How independent is Parliament from the judiciary? And I'm asking this question for you to help us understand. You are both a member of the judiciary and of the legislature. This gentleman offended the judiciary. How should Parliament, which is a legislature, deal with that offense? Are you supposed to just take notice of it as you've heard in the media? Or you're supposed to take steps to ensure that he's punished by the judiciary? What ought to have happened and what has happened so far?
Well, I mean, what ought to happen? What ought to happen is, if there's a conviction against you, you submit yourself to the jurisdiction of the court that has convicted you. You can then also, at the same time, go through the legal processes of either, appealing against the conviction, applying to the same court to have the conviction set aside, or whatever legal processes you believe will inure to your benefit. That is what ought to happen. Now, all of us as institutions of state, that is the legislature, the Constitution, I think in Article 127, clearly obliges us to assist the judiciary to do their work. And so, in my opinion, we might not arrest the gentleman and hand him over to the courts. That's not our responsibility. If he's walking around Parliament, we see him, well, it's up to the Marshal's office or the police, because we have a Parliament police station. If they think that he has committed an offense and he's a convict, and therefore he should be arrested and handed over to the courts, that's a matter that they can use their discretion to exercise. But then, for him to come to the floor of Parliament, knowing very well that he has been convicted by a court, and his conviction was based on an act that he undertook in the chamber of Parliament, which the court found to be offensive, and asked him to come to court, and he refused to come to court, and finally they've decided to, hold him accountable for not coming to court. We should not be seen condoning his conduct. That is a simple point that I was making. We're not going to arrest him and hand him over to the court, but then we also should not be seen giving him a platform as if to rub it in the face of the courts. And that, in principle, is what we as a majority, we were against.
But that sounds...
As for what ought to happen is that, the courts ought to find a way of apprehending him and then sentencing him.
That sounds like you want to eat your cake and still have it. So on the one side, you don't want to aid the courts to arrest him. You see him around. He's just a few chairs away.
It is not our responsibility as members of Parliament to go arrest him to hand him over to the courts.
What's the effect of a bench? What's the effect of a bench warrant?
They communicate to the law enforcement agencies to look for him.
Okay, so even if you see him, the effect of a bench warrant does not say you can bundle him up and take him to the courts.
Not me, Mahama Ayariga, or any of the NDC MPs walking around. It's for the police to look for him.
Okay.
I mean, the argument they try to make is that a civil or criminal process cannot be served on a member of parliament. But we're not even talking about the service of a civil or criminal process. We're talking about the execution of a conviction. So you've been convicted, and the law enforcement agencies have the responsibility to execute the conviction. So if you are hiding under the constitutional provision that says that a civil or criminal process cannot be served on a member of parliament on his way to or whilst he is attending art or on his way back from parliament or whilst he's performing his parliamentary duties, that is the service of, a process. But how about if you've been convicted by the court for an offense? If the law enforcement agencies see you around parliament, can they arrest you or not? I do not see any provision in our constitution or our standing orders that deals with that. So all the arguments that they were making on their side, they were simply focusing on the rules relating to service of process.
So in your mind, he can be convicted. I mean, he can be arrested without necessarily informing the speaker as the procedure dictates.
Well, once he's arrested, they have to quickly inform the speaker. That's also part of the rules. But that is after he has been arrested. Because the rules say that when you arrest a member of parliament or you detain a member of parliament, within 6 hours you should inform the speaker.
So not before. It should be after.
Not before. After you anybody who detains. But then I think that procedurally it might be appropriate for you to bring to the attention of the speaker that a member of parliament has been convicted. That would be useful. But the rules as we have them deal with what should happen to you if you have been detained, arrested, or restrained by a law enforcement, by the register of a court. Then you are to bring the information to the attention of, or you bring the incident to the attention of the speaker within, 6 hours. But here, we're not dealing with that. He's not being arrested. He's walking around in Parliament House.
But is a bench warrant not carrying the same effect as a warrant of arrest? Because it is, both are saying, bring this person to face justice because he possibly failed to show up. And so to the extent that it is a process, it's a court process, and you would have to serve it on the speaker before the speaker then in turn allows you to execute. I don't get why you are thinking or saying that this is not a process. It is a warrant, just like a warrant of arrest issued by the court, called a bench warrant.
There's a difference, in my opinion, between a bench warrant and then also when the courts have actually convicted you for contempt. That is my position on the matter. So when you are invited to come to court and you fail to come, the court issue a bench warrant that they should go and bring you by force. That's a process, okay? But when after a while the court thinks that you are being contemptuous of the court and they convict you for contempt, then that becomes a different thing from an ordinary bench warrant. So I'm saying that at the point when you allow yourself to be convicted, then at that time, the category of protections given under the Constitution and our standing orders, will be materially different. So that is why I think that at this stage, when the courts have actually, convicted him for contempt, then he has to hand himself over to the court so that the courts will sentence him. Or he has to go to the court and appeal to the court and try and get the court to set aside its conviction. Because, you see, we shouldn't create an impression that when you are a member of parliament, you can just do whatever you want. And then the institution of parliament should be seen just protecting you. And I believe that when you do that, you will be undermining the constitution. And also, as a parliament, we should not be seen undermining a coordinate branch of government. The protections that are given to members of parliament, we will fight for those protections. So if I'm on my way to parliament, you serve me a process, we'll resist that. If I'm on my way back and you serve a process, we'll resist that. if you serve me a process wrongly and then you proceed to take decisions in relation to me, I will come and fight it in court. But you see, go and fight it in court. And so our argument is that once you are doing all these things, and especially in this instance where you didn't fight it and then the court has convicted, you shouldn't come and stand in the chamber and pretend that nothing has happened and you want to be making statements on the floor of the House. We find that to be disrespectful of the judiciary, and I don't think that I want to be sitting in the House and then an individual member of Parliament, will be permitted to be so disrespectful of the judiciary.
Is the House not blind to what is happening out there until and unless it is served properly through the appropriate channels? So that for the House of Parliament, you have 276 MPs. They come to do their business. And to the extent that no communication has come from the judiciary saying, we need you to hand over person A or B because he has done A, B, C, D, that person is properly qualified to continue. He has subscribed to the oath to represent the people of Akwatia, which is what he has been doing. And so you are blind. And I'm using blind here to mean officially you are unaware of what has happened because officially you have not been told. So why are you fighting someone who you are unofficially aware has been convicted and a bench warrant issued against him? He is a member, a very bona fide member of that chamber. Until he's arrested and detained, he is with you, and your speaker has not been told that he's not with you.
Well, the House also is a very important arm of government. You have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary. We're all supposed to work towards ensuring that the Constitution is upheld. We should not be seen condoning the conduct of an individual that undermines the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And my argument in the House today is that the Speaker has a duty to uphold the dignity and the integrity of the House. And so when an individual who is who has been convicted comes to the House and wants to use the platform of the House in a way that we believe was in defiance of the judiciary, and to play to the gallery of his constituency as if to say, well, the court say they have convicted me, but here I am. I'm in Parliament. I'm making statements. Nobody's stopping me. Who are the courts? I mean, to tell you the truth, I think that as a House, we will be lending our platform to an individual to grossly disrespect the judiciary, and I and my side felt that was wrong. He's been coming to Parliament for several days now. We have never asked him to stop coming to Parliament.
But why are you fighting the courts fight for them? They are the master of their own rules, just like you are. Allow them. If they are being disobeyed, they know what steps to take to ensure that they are obeyed. What is your...
They've taken the steps.
Yes, and they know what to do. They can get the
warrant. They have
They can get the police.
They have issued a bench warrant. They have convicted him for contempt. They've taken all the steps. But then if you read Article 127, I believe, 2 of the Constitution, it is clear that all of us, all the institutions, must lend their support to the courts. You see, the court doesn't have a police. The court doesn't have an army. The court only has a moral force. And it is the two other arms of government that must enforce the decisions of the court and give the court legitimacy. The court, they don't have their own police. So you cannot say that we should allow the courts to fight their own fight, because there's a limit to how they can fight their own fight. If they give a directive, if they say, look, you are convicted, and then all of us citizens see the person walking around the streets and we do nothing about it, we're undermining the courts. If a member of Parliament is convicted and then the member of Parliament can ignore that and come to the Chamber of Parliament and make statements and walk away without anybody making an effort to stop him, it just means that we're not lending support to the courts to enforce the laws of the country. And yet those laws were passed by this same Parliament.
So why don't you arrest him as a private citizen then, or inform the police that, look at this guy going there, police are looking for him, please catch him and send him to Kofrida? Why don't you do that rather than go to the chamber and insist that he shouldn't talk?
Well, we raised the issue. I'm sure the IGP is aware where he was, and I believe that the IGP is the chief police officer of the country, and it will be up to him to decide what he does. We all have to be held accountable in our various departments. For me, as leader of the House, I objected to the platform of Parliament being used by him. I'm sure the IGP also knows what his responsibilities are. It's not for me. If I don't have the energy to arrest somebody, you can't insist that I should arrest that person.
You don't have the energy or maybe interest.
The energy I have is to prevent him from making statements on the floor.
So your protest would only be to the extent that he rises on his feet. You will not hear him, but you don't mind him coming to sit in the chamber with you.
That is the job of the marshal. See, other people have responsibilities. The job of the marshal is to ensure law and order. The job of the speaker is to maintain the integrity and sanctity of the House. And then generally, the honor and dignity of the House. And the relationship between the House and coordinate branches of government are equally very important.
Okay.
So let them do their job. Me, my job is what I managed to do, which is, you can choose to defy the courts. Others can keep quiet about it. But so long as we are concerned, we will not allow you to be so disrespectful of the courts.
Finally, your colleague...
There's a conviction. You don't go there and then try and set it aside. You don't present yourself to... Look, me, if the court convicts me, I will walk there and present myself just to show respect to the judiciary. Why? They won't kill you.
Okay.
Because all they want is for you to attend court.
They'll jail you, you become an ex-convict. They'll jail you, become an ex-convict, and that may affect your seat. Anyway, my last question. Your colleague, Alexander Afenyo Markin, says they'll show you Pepe when the president appears to deliver the State of the Nation address. Based on what you did today, they may also stage a walkout. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm using may, but he said they'll retaliate.
Well, it depends on how they stage their walkout. Let's wait and see what happens on that day. But I don't think that, we can be threatened by Afenyo Markin or any of the people on the minority side. I mean, because if we also decide to use our full powers in the chamber, I can assure you that they will be in big trouble. So let's not start by threatening. I mean, we have the numbers, and if you look at the numbers that we have, there are so many things that we can do against, individual minority members. And so I think that they should be the last people to start threatening.
Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
That's Honorable Mahama Ayariga. He's Boku Central Member of Parliament.